welcome to Tracy Momey Reads. I am back again with another book review. My apologies for being MIA last week. Remember I told y'all that I was doing my 35-year class reunion from high school. So yeah, that was last weekend, and the week leading up to it was crazy. So I just did not have it in me to carve out some time to do a video. So I'm so sorry that I missed. I really need to get my stuff together and start doing these videos in advance, but that is neither here nor there. Today I am back and I am ready, and I'm going to be reviewing His and Hers by Alice Feeney. His and Hers, Alice Feeney. Okay, so I have read several of Alice Feeney's books, and I have always enjoyed all of her stories. She writes in the suspense thriller genre, and His and Hers was no exception. I enjoyed it, but there were parts of it that left me very confused, and I don't know if it was as well executed as I would have liked for it to have been. And of course, we get to the end and there was, some flaws I felt. So let's start off with the beginning here. So at the beginning of this story, both characters have been introduced, and His and Hers, it really more or less alludes to, there are 2 points of view in the story. His point of view, his being a guy named Jack, who's also a detective, a police detective, in her point of view, a woman named Anna, who is a journalist. And the story is set in London, I believe. Yes, a London-based story, or England, somewhere in England, maybe outside of London. They were mentioning a lot of small towns. But when the story starts off, we kind of get, Anna is the first person that starts off the story. So it's actually hers. And that's how the chapters was. It was kind of confusing, because the chapters would say hers, then his, hers, then his. There were no chapter numbers. There were no chapter names. So you had to kind of, keep up with what was going on. So we meet Anna, and she's a very detail-oriented, organized, kind of has her life planned out type person. She's also a closet alcoholic. And she is working, like I said, she's a journalist. And she does the news on television. And she had recently gotten promoted to being like an anchor, like one of the main people that you see on TV delivering the news. Because the person, she was replacing someone who was on maternity leave. And the person ended up having another baby, so went on another maternity leave. So like for the last couple of years, she'd been in that role. And then as the book starts, the woman comes back for her job, which leaves Anna to drinking even more. And I mean, I knew something was up with Anna, because like this woman was drinking before she went to work. She kept the little small, liquor bottles in her purse. She had the breath spray. I mean, but she was a functional alcoholic. She like wasn't like slurring her words, or people weren't like looking like, okay, she's stumbling or anything like that. So that's the scary thing. It's like how functional she was for the amount of alcohol she was consuming. But anyway, Anna is also, you can tell she's lonely. She goes home to her empty house, and she alludes to having been married before and having a child. So, that kind of gets the antennas going like, well, what happened to these people? Where's your family? So then we meet Jack. And like I said, he's a police detective. He's kind of gruff and, just did no real concern about personal hygiene. There's a murder that happens in the small town that he lives in on the outskirts of London. And it's one of those towns where nothing ever happens. So this is a big ass deal that there's a murder. He gets up and basically just puts on some wrinkled clothes, all disheveled, and barely, washes his face and goes out the door to see what happens. He's been on the job for like 20 years, so he's really good at his job, but a lot of people kind of find him off-putting or whatever, because he's so cynical, he's easily annoyed. And we learn about him that he's living with this woman and a child. And the way that he described her, I don't know why, early on I was like, I don't think that's his woman or his child. Like, the way that he referred to her was like, you know, I live with a woman who is constantly annoyed by my presence and, you know, stuff like that. So it was never any type of affection or even like anger that maybe she had towards him. So I was like, oh yeah, this must be like, you know, his sister, aunt, mother, somebody, and it's probably their kid, whoever the child was. We learn that both Anna and Jack, like in their points of view, and this is where it started to get confusing early on, but also at the same time where you were like, do go on, what is happening here? Because they both admitted to seeing the woman like the night before she died. Like they both had interacted with her, they had seen her, and part of Anna's point of view, she was saying that, you know, she had killed the woman. And so it was just, from that point, I thought that Anna was for sure the murderer, but I couldn't understand why the author would have revealed that so early on in the story. And then, you know, we find out that Anna and Jack were married. That's the husband that she alludes to that she got divorced from. And their child, they had a child together that died. And the way it sounds like it was like crib death, you know, sudden infant death syndrome type thing, because the baby was only like 3 or 4 months old when she died. But anyway, so the story, you know, goes on, and the thing that I thought was interesting, especially when it was appearing that Anna was the killer, was like she kept saying things and doing things that I felt like, okay, girl, people are gonna know you did that. You are outing yourself, you know, saying that because there was something in the victim's mouth that nobody would have known but the police officers that were there or the killer. And she made that comment to Jack, you know, saying, well, what about the thing they found in her mouth? And he was like, how would you know about that? So it just goes back and forth. There is a part where we go back to the past and we learn about like how Jack and Anna have always sort of been connected, because in the past, like Anna, she was good friends with, well, I say good friends, I'll just say she was in a friend group. She was in a friend group with Jack's sister and also with the woman who died, right? And there were 2 other people in the friend group as well. And it was led by the woman who died. Her name was Rachel. And she was a piece of work. Even at 16, she was manipulative and evil and just did some downright despicable things. And she was kind of like the bully of the group and, you know, getting these girls in all kind of trouble. But, you know, they were followers and they were weak because nobody ever challenged her. And I cannot stand when that kind of thing happens. Like, you know, you have this one person that's the bully, and then they have all these minions who really don't like the things that they're doing, and they feel like scared. They don't want to be ostracized, or they don't want like for that person to hurt them or something like that. But my thought is always, we outnumber this person. Let's do what needs to be done. You know, how you gonna let one person control all these people? And again, I guess that just shows like the weakness and the desire to want to fit in and belong, you know, when you're going through that stage in life, like teenage, you know, adolescent years. But anyway, another person ends up dead. So now, like, this is really a big deal because, again, nothing ever happens in this town. Not one murder, let alone 2. And then there's another murder. And this is the thing, how they're all tied together. They're all the girls that were in Anna's friend group, right? So as we start getting more and more of that backstory of things that happened when they were in high school and they picked on this one girl, you know, I was like, oh, it has to be her, you know, because plot twist that I will not give away. The girl who they picked on, she was somebody also currently in Anna's life that Anna didn't know, which I found that to be kind of ridiculous that she would. Because even if somebody like dyes their hair, loses weight, things like that, there are still some distinguishable features. And if they have the same name, like, why wouldn't you know that's the person? Especially if the place where you live isn't that big. You know, if you like live in a community or you grew up in a certain community, and you know, I don't know that part. I don't know that was believable to me that Anna didn't realize who that person was the whole time. But anyway, so as these murders, you know, these bodies are stacking up, Jack is looking guilty, like he did it. And I'm wondering, oh, is Anna setting him up? Then there was stuff that she didn't know about. I'm like, okay, well, did she even do it? And then there was another person that kind of comes into the mix. Jack has this young female partner named Priya. And then I thought it was her. You know, I'm just like blaming everybody in the story because I'm like, what is going on? Then when we get close to the end, I realize, and this may be a spoiler, so I'll say spoiler alert. It doesn't give away the story, but it will make you read it differently. When you start reading it, maybe you'll notice this or look out for this. But I think, even though there was no delineation or nothing that separated it, in the point of view for hers, I don't think it was always Anna that was talking. And that is an important thing to note. You know, as I go back over the story, I don't think that every chapter that had hers was actually Anna, because some of it just didn't make sense. And then when you get to the very end, there was another her involved. So, you know, I'm thinking Rachel had come back from the dead. Like I said, I thought it was Priya. I mean, it was just crazy that, and usually I like that kind of thing, but this was just, it was too much. I felt like it was too much to keep up with. It was too much flip-flopping and wish-wash. Like we never had this straight path of what was going on. But when I realized, like I said, that at the end, when it was revealed who had done what, I was like, there's no way that could have been Anna's voice the whole time. So on one hand, maybe it was clever that Alice Feeney decided to use his and hers, you know, as those chapter titles, instead of saying, you know, Jack or Anna, or, you know, whatever. Because as the reader, you're thinking it's always Anna, but she never says that it's always Anna. It's just always told in first person point of view, though. You know, like, I walked down the lane and I hit her over the head, you know. And then that chapter may end, then you go to Jack's chapter and he's saying what he did that day. Then it comes back to hers. And it's obvious that it's Anna because, you know, she's like saying something about her work, or I got to go check on my mom, or I met Jack at the thing. So some of those hers chapters, I really don't think they were Anna. I think they were somebody else. And once you realize who that person is, that was the thing that I just didn't find plausible. And it's not because this person wasn't in the story or wasn't a part of the plot or wasn't a character that, you know, had been mentioned. She's been mentioned quite a bit. I just don't know that I buy that she could have been capable of doing. I mean, because these people like were murdered and like mutilated in some ways. And I feel like it would have taken somebody that, I don't know, like maybe that was stronger mentally, physically, emotionally. And I just don't know that I believe that person could have done that, right? Even though they had committed a murder before. You know, I figured that part out early on when something was said. I was like, oh, that person killed that person. And, you know, that person ended up being the whole killer at the end. So, yeah, just like I said, it was one of those stories that you can't put it down because you get so invested, right? And you have to know how it ends. But there were some parts that were really, could be really triggering for people, because there is you know, like I said, there's a mention of mutilation, there's mention of bullying, there is a sexual assault that occurs. There is like what you may think is kind of like elder abuse or something like that also. So, and then the mention like their baby passed away. So there are a lot of like themes running through this book and a lot of trigger points. But at its heart, like I said, with most of these books, revenge was what was going on. And the people in Anna's friend group were the ones being targeted. So, you know, that's why, you know, I thought Anna was the killer, you know, even though she was in the friend group and kind of let some things happen without really standing up for other people. But so it was good, and I found it to be entertaining, even though I do feel like some, you know, a few parts of it they just weren't plausible or believable to me. And again, you know, fiction writing is all about suspending belief, but I feel like it also has to make sense, you know, from some sort of real world perspective. If you're not dealing with like sci-fi, like if you're not dealing with witches and dragons and wizards or something, then if it's real people in real situations and scenarios, even if you have them do something that may not seem plausible, you have to give a reason why they were able to execute said action. And that was not the case in His and Hers. So like I say, you know, entertaining, riveting in some parts, pearl clutching in other parts. But I mean, it's worth the read. It's worth the read. If you like books like that, if you like books that are, you know, that have maybe some trigger points or different, you know, the author isn't scared to go there with different, you know, kind of taboo topics. If you like suspense, if you like thrillers, if you like ambiguous or unreliable first person points of view in books, you will really, really enjoy this, because neither one of them were reliable characters or narrators, you know. And if you like books that kind of go from past to present, or books with multiple characters, then you will really, really, you know, enjoy Alice Feeney's His and Hers. But I would just love to know what people think about that ending. If you have read it, let me know what you thought about the ending when it was revealed who the killer was. Did you really think that was plausible? So overall, I give it a 3.75. I just couldn't get past like who the killer ended up being. That just it made sense, the reasoning maybe, but you know, then again, it seemed a little bit contrite and a little bit forced for me. And also on June 1st, you know, I have a book club on the Fable app. I've talked about this before. Well, this was our second read that we started on June 1st. Alice Feeney's His and Hers. We previously read Black Cake, and I just leave the books on there until we assign the next book. So if you have read it, or if you're reading it now, or you start reading it, the way that the Fable app works, like it's broken down by chapters. And if you have like something profound to say, or like some observation, or you want to know what other people thought, you can go into the app and you can go by chapters and leave your comments or, you know, your thoughts. But just keep in mind, it's kind of hard with this one on the Fable app because the chapters don't have names. It's just his, hers, and you can kind of get thrown off. So I was like having to save mine on my phone in notes and put dates on it so I could remember, okay, this goes to this chapter, this goes to that chapter. But anyway, if you want to follow along, or you want, you know, to talk about the book, just keep in mind there are spoilers because on each chapter, we've read the chapter already, so you're saying, you know, what happened in the chapter. That's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. And to everyone who has subscribed to my channel, I sincerely appreciate it. And for those of you that have not, go ahead and take the time now to subscribe to my channel. And make sure you like this video. You guys have a great day and enjoy the rest of your week. Bye.